my mom had me pack a bag, um, full of clothes and nothing but clothes. It was just all clothes, like I was going somewhere. And she drove me to an orphanage, and basically told me get the fuck out of the car. So all the way from the very beginning, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I definitely have lived not the most normal life. I wouldn't say it was, a great life or a bad life or anything. It was definitely a unique one. I was always moving around a lot as a kid till the time I was about 16. So I had a good, few years of stability. Before that, we were moving almost every year to a different house. So yeah, I was always kind of moving around, mainly just because military purposes. Um, my mom, um, around the time that she found out that she was pregnant, was trying to get into the U.S. Navy, or I believe she was doing boot camp or doing something to get into the service. But she found out that she was pregnant, and she put that to the wayside and completely focused on becoming a mom and everything. I was born in Mississippi, but I grew up for the first few years of my life in New Orleans. So anybody that I meet, whether it's on Xbox or in real life, I always tell them that I'm from New Orleans, just because that is what I resonated with growing up. That was home to me.
Oh, that's awesome
Um,
to you.
it's where most of my family lives. Um, so to me, Louisiana, more specifically New Orleans, Louisiana, that's home to me. Um, so I lived in New Orleans for as long as I could remember. I lived there until about 2005, whenever Hurricane Katrina happened. After Hurricane Katrina, I still lived in Louisiana for maybe another year. However, I didn't live in New Orleans. I lived in a city called Shreveport, which was in the northern part of Louisiana, so closer to Texas and Arkansas. So a little bit more upstate than where I, used to live. Growing up, growing up in New Orleans, my mom, she was a single mother. My mom and my dad did not continue dating. However, they did co-parent. Um, so I grew up knowing who my dad was and living with my mom. However, they both were working. So my mom had to find somebody who would be able to take care of me during the day while she worked. She could work and take me home at night and all that. So don't quite remember how she met the people who took care of me. I believe there was a coworker at a restaurant that she was working at in Louisiana, and they knew somebody. It was basically a friend of a friend kind of thing. So my mom, she met these people. She really liked them, and they really liked me. So they started taking care of me and becoming my babysitters. And later on down the line, they became my godparents. So they're very important later on in the story. I met my godparents in Louisiana when I had to have been probably a few months old when they started taking care of me. I lived there for about a year, and then um, my mom, I guess, got back in touch with a guy that she don't know if they dated, but I know that she knew him from boot camp or during that time when she was going into the service. She reconnected with him over the internet. He drove halfway across the country to come pick us up and helped us move from Louisiana to Virginia. And
Wow.
we lived with him in Virginia, um, where he was working. He was in the Navy, So we moved with him, and then I want to say a few months later, she and him got married, and he became my stepdad. Chris and my mom were married. I want to say 2007, and we lived in Virginia till about 2009. He went on to a deployment to the Middle East, and while he was there for maybe 15 months, and so my mom decided it was best that we move back down to the south, to be closer to family. And so that's what we did. We moved back to Louisiana. We moved, not to New Orleans, but we moved to a city close to New Orleans, where most of my family was, and lived there for about a year. Once my stepdad came back from deployment, we moved back to Virginia. But once we moved back, we were there for a while. Wherever my stepdad needed to go until after his deployment, and then finally settled down in Virginia for a good 5 to 6 years. So by the time that I moved back, I was 11 years old, but I was in 5th grade. So I went to elementary school over there. I went to a middle school that I was able to do all 3 years of my time in that middle school, so I didn't have to change schools, which was very nice. And then I did 2 years in a high school called Grassfield High School. And that's where I did my freshman and sophomore year. So sophomore year is the year I turned 16. That was in my opinion, the best year of my life. That was the most transformative year of my life, because at that point I had a lot of friends from living, in that area for so long. I did have to change schools, or more specifically school districts, going into high school. So all my friends that I had from middle school, they all went to different schools for high school. That was the year that I moved out of Virginia. Growing up, I always kind of had kind of bad grades. One, I guess, one report card would be a good report card, and I would have TV privileges and Xbox privileges and be able to go play with my friends and stuff. But then I would have a bad report card, and I would have no privileges whatsoever. It was basically nothing but homework and schoolwork and all that stuff. So yeah, growing up, school wasn't really hard. I didn't like it. And something that's not so good about myself personally is that if I don't like something, I won't put in the effort to do it. Whatever it is. It doesn't have to be school necessarily. It could be anything in life. So if there's something that I don't really like or want to do, or something I don't believe in, I won't do very good at that thing, even though I have to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So school was just one of those things where, I knew it was something I had to do growing up, but I didn't like it. So I didn't try at it, or I wasn't good at it. So yeah, I always, like, growing up, it was, a good report card and then a bad one, and then a good one and then a bad one. So my grades were always kind of fluctuating. This was something that, didn't really sit well with my parents, more specifically my mom. And one of the things too that I struggled with my mom was that she had a temper. She was kind of abusive growing up. And so
Abusive.
so the first time I noticed this was right when my stepdad went on his first deployment. He was already, off on the ship to the Middle East or wherever he was. Yeah, my mom, like, I did something, and my mom, like, just lost her mind and, chased me around the house with the belt. At the time, I didn't really see it as anything out of the ordinary, because it wasn't too far off from normal disciplining that I was receiving growing up.
Yeah.
But it definitely it got worse as I got older. So um, yeah, like in middle school, I had a really bad report card. So uh, I got an F on a report card one time, and it was the worst. It was the first F I'd ever received, and it was the worst grade I'd ever gotten ever in school. And my um, my punishment for that was my mom had me pack a bag, um, full of clothes and nothing but clothes. It was just all clothes, like I was going somewhere. And she drove me to an orphanage, and basically told me get the fuck out of the car. That was It was traumatizing for sure. As you could imagine, I was probably 11, 12 at the time, and
Jesus.
it brought me to tears. It was definitely something that traumatized me as a kid. Um, but you know, I cried and I begged, and my mom drove me back home. And instead, what I had to do was I had to take everything out of my room, so I would only be left with a mattress, a blanket, and a pillow in my room, and then an alarm clock so that I could wake up for school in the morning. But I had nothing on the walls. I had no posters. I didn't have, you know, any games or anything like that. Um, and that became like the new kind of regular punishment that I would get anytime that I got a bad grade.
A new
Um,
regular punishment.
yeah. So I would still get the normal like ass whooping, like with a belt. But then afterwards it would be, I would have to take all my stuff out of my room, put it in a different room, or put it in storage or whatever, and then, I would have nothing but, a bed, a blanket, and my alarm clock. But yeah, that was something that traumatized me as a kid, and I hadn't had anything kind of similar to that happening until right before I moved to California. I was 16. I had a report card that I brought home, and it had an F on it again. And this time, I didn't want to relive that same kind of punishment, but I knew that I also had to, um, you know, I had to show them because they were expecting to see a report card around that time. So uh, I had to show it to them. So what I did was I took it with me. I brought it inside the house. I took one of my old report cards from my drawer, and I cut out the piece of paper so that I would cut out the section that has the grade on it,
Mm.
and I made it look really nice. I made it look like it was, part of that report card.
Yeah.
So I cut out that little piece of paper with the grade on it, glued it, made it look like it was, a normal report card. And I remember I showed it to my mom, and she thought it looked good. You know, she said, "All right." Now, what I did was I glued a C. So I didn't want to, put a high grade on there because, my mom knew that I wasn't that good in whatever class that I was in. So if I put an A, she would know something was up. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I put in a C to make it believable. And my mom, she looked at the report card. She thought it was good, and left it on the counter so that my stepdad could look at it when he got home.
Oh,
And
okay.
my stepdad, he was, like I said, he was in the Navy, but he was also, um, he was a petty officer, so he wasn't an actual officer yet. He was an E7, meaning in the Navy that he was a chief. So he
I
was
see.
used to looking at, paperwork all day and studying very fine, minute details. I remember he comes home and I the only thing I remember was he told me to go take out the trash, and I grabbed the trash, I walked outside, and as I'm walking outside, I see him, pick up my report card to look at it. And I went outside, threw out the trash, I walked back inside, and when I came back inside, the report card is already scratched off, and he sees the F, and he shows it to
Oh.
me, and he points to it. He goes, "What is this?" And I just remember the same kind of thing, the ass beating, um, you know, my uh, my mom actually, really lost it that day. She took a lot of my things in my room and threw them around the room, tore up the posters that I had on the walls. She left my room looking like a wild animal just went rampant in my room. So that happened, and then I finished out the rest of my year. But shortly after that incident, my mom, she decided that, she wanted me to live with my dad in Louisiana. And it was kind of hard for me to really absorb at first because I'd always seen myself graduating at that school that I was at, in Virginia, and just kind of living there for the foreseeable future. um, and so for my mom to tell me that I was going to live in a completely different state and have to start over, basically meet completely new people, uh, it was hard. uh, yeah, so I spent the rest of my year and spent the rest of my school year, I should say, in Virginia. And even though that incident happened, I technically wasn't grounded. So because I was going to be living with my dad, my mom and stepdad, I guess, let me not be grounded for the rest of the year. So I got to hang out with friends and all that, and have little summer parties and all that, and play video games. That was probably the best summer that I ever had. One day I would be hanging out with friends, and then the next day I would be staying at the house, by myself and playing video games all day. And then the next day after that, I would, hang out with my brother. We'd go out to, the city and go to the mall and stuff like that. Or next day after that, I would hang out with a girl or whatever. Um, so it was like every day was a different, was something new. I was always doing something different, and it was amazing, man. I was talking to a lot of different girls at that time, which, I mean, when you're a 16-year-old boy, that's the
Hey,
dream, If you're
yeah,
talking
that's the
to
dream, yeah.
five, six, seven different girls. Had a good summer all in all. Definitely, I would have liked to have, been with a lot more girls, but not everything can go your way.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so after I left Virginia, um, I I went to California for a little while. Um,
Yeah, to California.
I would always, every year for summer vacation, I would go to California to live with my godparents that I had mentioned, the ones that I had uh,
Oh.
that my mom met in Louisiana. So after Katrina, um, me and my mom, we went east to Virginia, but my godparents, they went west with their whole family, so they moved to California after Hurricane Katrina. Um, but every summer I would fly out to California and spend the summer with them. From every year from when I was 10 years old till I was 16. Yeah, that year I went out there when I was 16. I, you know, uh, went to a Metallica concert with my god brother.
God
Um,
brother? Oh, God brother, really? Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
so yeah, my godparents they have. Oh, I'm sorry, my godmother has four children, but my godfather, he's not the father of any of the children. He's
Oh,
their stepdad.
I see.
Um, yeah, I went to that concert with my godbrother. Um, Absolute amazing concert, by the way. It was my favorite band. Um, and yeah, I had a good time there. Um, I had a good time all in all during my summer in California. Um, After my quote unquote summer vacation, went down to Louisiana to go live with my dad. My dad, and my grandfather, we lived with each other in the same house. When my dad, uh, you know, kind of failed at getting me enrolled in school, my grandfather let him know, you know, told him a little bit about himself, and got in his face and told him that he's fucking up, get in his face and yell at him, which I never seen in my life. My grandfather was always the sweet grandfather, always the really nice one in the family, but he was also a very serious person when it came to work. I always knew that about him. He was very serious about his work, and when things had to get done, he made sure things got done. And then a few other things happened that uh, made my mom want to move me out of Louisiana. Um, but yeah, so basically, my mom gave me the option to live out in California with my godparents, and for me, that was always my dream growing up. Was growing up living in California, the Sunshine State, so. Uh, I immediately took that offer. A few days later, I was flying out to California to live with my godparents.
So, how is your relationship with your mother right now?
It's something that it does cross my mind every now and again. Um, Thoughts from the past. Um, things that she did to me or said to me or whatever as a kid. But it's not something that harps on me all the time. After after I moved to California and I was living with my godparents, it gave me a lot of time to kind of reflect and um, and see like how my life had changed. And at that time, I was filled with a lot of anger, a lot of unchecked anger, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. And so, um, I guess you could say I kind of had like a villain arc where um, I just had all this anger and I didn't really know what to do with it. And over the years, from the time I was 16 till about 19 years old, I was kind of in this state. Um, but over time, it over time, I kind of just realized that, you know, being angry and being angry about things that happened to me in my past, it doesn't serve me. It doesn't do anything for me and it doesn't do anything for the people around me. So, I realized that, you know, why would I want to be the same person that I saw my mother as? Why not try to break from that and become a better person? A more uh, you know, a more warm and kind person. And that's what I started doing. And so I, always try to treat people with respect and um, definitely try not to, um, let anger get to me. Um, I would say now I've definitely gotten a lot better at managing anger to the point where it's almost rare to where I do get genuinely angry at things. Um, I remember um, kind of the inciting incident that made um, it kind of brought us back together was we had this dog. Um, we got him maybe when I was about 10 years old. And it was my mother's dog. He was a little Chihuahua named Knox, and he passed away in about 2020. And my mom was, obviously very, heartbroken over that. That was her dog. She loved him very much, and he was, a childhood dog for me. So, that was definitely hard hearing that, our dog just passed away, and so. Um, I think we weren't really talking for maybe about a year, maybe 2 years. Um, and then she uh, called me or texted me saying that Knox had passed away. And, for a long time, I was in a very defensive kind of mode when it came to my mother. I, always felt like I was kind of on the back foot. Um, so I would always kind of have my guard up whenever I would talk with her, interact with her. Um, but with the gravity of that situation, I kind of, you know, kind of let that guard down and just made sure that she was okay and that you know uh, she was doing fine and all that. And I, basically just said like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And she said she's fine. She's, you know, she was very upset at the time, not with anybody, but just upset that he had passed away. But she was also, um, she also said that he did live a long life for a small dog, and that he was very happy, but it was also his time to go. So um, he went in his sleep peacefully. So she was happy that it wasn't painful or anything, that he just went peacefully in his sleep, and that was that. And it was unexpected for sure, to hear that he had passed away, but even more so, um, that um, that's how we would kind of rekindle our relationship. Um, because I mean, at that time, I I was not focused on I wasn't focused on her. I wasn't focused on anything that she was doing. I was focused on my life and what I was going to do. So um, yeah, it was definitely out of the blue, but I think it was definitely necessary our uh, for our relationship as mother and son. Um, and things started getting better from there. Um, yeah, just me uh, hoping that she was okay and that she was fine, even though she had just lost her dog. And later on, it kind of started picking back up to we would start checking in on each other and seeing how the other was doing, and things like that. As far as um, things she did to me and uh, things she did, said, and everything in between. Um, that's all things that we've hashed out, and she does, you know, she does regret taking things to the extreme in terms of discipline, to the point where it would be considered abuse. Um, she doesn't regret disciplining me, um, and neither do I. Um, I think that discipline is very important, uh, especially for raising a child and making sure that children um, you know they learn boundaries and they know right from wrong. Um, so I think in terms of disciplining, I think she did a good job. But in terms of uh, taking things to the extreme, I think she knows that she crossed the line more than once, um, and and she knows that, and she's apologized to me for that. And I've also forgiven her. It's one of those things I'll never forget. Uh, but I have forgiven.
May I ask you what was the conversation like?
It wasn't the main topic of the conversation. It was almost like a side note in the conversation. Um, she um, just kind of recognized that you know she recognized what she had done, and you know basically just said that she was sorry. She didn't say specifically what she was sorry for, but I knew what she meant. I knew that she was sorry for taking things to the extreme, um, in general. And I wasn't holding her accountable for any one instance. When she said she was sorry, I knew she meant all the things. And, I was satisfied with that, with her recognizing that, she did, you know, take things too far. Um, but she didn't apologize for any one instance. She apologized for things as a collective, as a whole. Yeah, and I was satisfied with that. I'm definitely glad that things have gotten better between us. Um, yeah, because yeah, I mean, for a while, we didn't talk, and then now, uh, she's flying over to California to come meet her granddaughter. So I'm
Ooh.
glad that we've resolved things, and you know she's very involved and invested, in, like I said, not just my life, but my girlfriend and my daughter's life. So I'm very very happy for that.
Yay! A toast! Hooray! There we go. All right, all right, all right. Ah, it's good to hear, man. Man.
Oh, good timing too.
Yeah.
My girlfriend is almost home.
Ah, all right, man. All right, dude. I'll let you go be dad, and then I'll talk to you next time or play. I don't know. Yeah.
All righty, man. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
man. All right. All right, bud. See you, man.
All right, later.
Okay, bye.